time we talked about, ways to work with difficult emotions, and in particular, something called the RAIN practice, which is just an extremely valuable way. I've found it very helpful. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it, and then we'll do the practice and see what happens. Yeah. So I guess to back up, how do we think about emotions? I like the idea of, often people say emotion, energy in motion, because these things do tend to flow through us. I mean, yeah, certainly get stuck with them at times, but think about how many emotions have you had in your life? Probably hundreds of thousands, all the way back to being a little kid excited about Christmas or holidays, or frustrations with your parents as an adolescent, to going on through life. They tend to show up and fade. So they're a big part of who we are, but we don't get a lot of training in them. And I think you, Becca and April, have mentioned that, just wishing the students and people could have developed some resources and some training, because otherwise, who do we learn from? Well, our family is a big thing, maybe genetics, okay, but also Hollywood and the media, maybe sources that aren't quite optimal. And one thing our culture teaches us is that uncomfortable emotions are bad and pleasant emotions are good, which is, certainly how they land on us, right? But it's important to remember that anything we label as bad is going to induce a struggle. Like if we cooked a bad dinner, we're going to be thinking about how we seasoned it and what we should have done different for quite a while. And so when we just labeling an emotion as bad suddenly brings in more struggle as we fight with it. And as we fight with an emotion, we automatically give it more power. And this is, I think, a super important point, and something we really work with a lot in mindfulness, is that when difficult emotions arise, our tendency is to react to them with more difficult emotions, right? We hate them, or we fear them, or we want to do anything we can to make them go away. So part of becoming mindful of emotions is not only seeing the emotion, but seeing how our reactions give them more power, how there's like this main emotion, and then we begin to look for all the other emotions we layer on top of it. An example is anger, where the anger is here, but there's often this vulnerability, this unmet need beneath it, that if we can attend to that, we can act in the world with greater wisdom and creativity. So if we can allow the emotion to be here without fighting it, all right, it has less power over us, and we can be more skillful with it, because we're constantly dealing with difficult emotions, stress, fear, anger, you name it. So then the question is, why are they there? Why do we have these things that seem to torment us so much? And it's important to remember that many of the things we dislike, about ourselves and the way our minds and our psychology is constructed, actually have their roots in very valuable things. And emotions are really useful warning signals, like warning lights on a car, because our heart is trying to tell us something. And if we just react to them with resistance or rumination or suppressing them, we don't get a chance to learn what they're telling us. And they can get kind of stuck, these ghosted remnants of emotions floating around that are triggered by interactions with people that maybe we find a little irritating, or situations we don't like. And the other big thing is our lives are so busy. We just don't even have time to acknowledge these emotions. So another way they kind of get piled up in it. So it's crucial to be able to work with them and to hold them, with ease, and then attend to what their messages are with kindness, and compassion. And last semester I did an approach called soft, soothe, and allow, which comes from the self-compassion background. And this is a similar one that comes more from the mindfulness tradition, with mindfulness being about awareness, and self-compassion being more about awareness of the experiencer, the person who's experiencing the problems. But this is called RAIN, and the RAIN, and there'll be a handout forthcoming. But the RAIN stands for, it's an acronym: R for recognize, A for allow, I for investigate, and N for nurture. And then a little bit of space for after the RAIN. Okay, and it's just, again, I can't tell you how useful it is, particularly coming from a professional background where I was convinced that I had all this figured out and could handle all kinds of difficulties. And towards the end of my career realized I was completely mistaken, and everyone was suffering for that. So it's just a great way to begin to really tease apart emotions. Emotions tend to hit us so hard and so full, we don't even see what's going on, and we're lost in them. So having a systematic way to kind of slow things down and work with them is really good. And I mentioned this fact that we often don't have time to deal with them in the middle of the day. Rain is something that can be done fairly quickly, but also it's great for the end of the day. Looking back at the difficult experiences, the times we really felt triggered or frustrated or upset, actually taking some time, just even a few minutes to do a rain practice on your memory of that situation can be an amazing way to begin to understand your built-in habits of mind and the ways that you may get in your own way as you're trying to lead a meaningful and fulfilling life. So anyway, the R is recognize, and that's simply recognizing what is going on. Okay, we judge feelings immediately as good or bad, and then we're suddenly struggling with them, or we're clinging to them, hoping they'll last. So there's a real benefit in simply taking the time to just acknowledge the emotion is here and recognizing it. I mean, again, even for me, even now, the vast majority of my difficult interactions, like if my wife and I have a difficult exchange, the emotion just turns into hunger. I'm just adding to the cabinet, whatever. So the act of labeling it, we can get some space and maybe some control over it. Because again, we're often so lost in the emotion, we just don't know what's going on, that they become our entire reality. So just naming it, a classic study at UCLA, they put people in an fMRI to see what their brain was doing, and showed them images of people emoting, fear, disgust, anger. And if they were not allowed to name the emotion, and I'm simplifying the way the study was done, but if they couldn't name it, the amygdala, the fight or flight, the more fear-based parts of their brain came online. And that's the part of ourselves that, although it's useful for survival, often narrows us down and keeps us from seeing what's going on. Whereas if they were simply allowed to name the picture, oh, that's hatred, or that's, disgust, then the amygdala calmed down and the prefrontal cortex, the higher centers, the wiser centers, just lit up. So suddenly, again, this idea of having a little bit of space around the emotion. And then the A is allow. Okay. The question is, can I be with this? Ideally with kindness, and it's just allowing the thoughts and the feelings, feelings and thoughts kind of, circulate back and forth without trying to push it away. And it doesn't mean we have to like it. It doesn't mean we're not going to act in the situation to change things. What it means is honestly acknowledging the painful feelings that are here. And again, by doing that, we can see the other layer of emotion that may be surrounding it. Again, the hating the feeling, or desperately wanting it to go away, or anger that we're having the feeling. You really need to see those secondary emotions to be able to address what's going on. Because if you can't learn to allow what is here, as difficult as it may be, you can't learn. Okay, you can't work with it. Because again, we're immediately drawn into that fight or flight mode, which doesn't have a lot of wisdom associated with it. So, and I love this line. It said, the boundary to what I can accept is the boundary to my freedom. So the more we can learn to accept things, again, doesn't mean we're going to be pushover. We're not giving in. We're not giving up. But just accepting our reaction to these emotions, the greater the freedom we have. So R, recognize, A, allow, the I is investigate. Okay. And it's not about, oh, why am I having this emotion? It must be something my parents did when I was 5 years old. That's a fruitful line of inquiry, but it's not what we're doing here. In this case, investigation means checking into your body to see what's happening. Emotions always have a body response. Okay. Sometimes it's obvious, and sometimes we aren't connected to our body. So in this case, the invitation is to get really curious, and we'll do this in the practice. Really, we'll spend some time just really getting curious. So because that can get us out of the storyline, and we can begin to learn things about the emotion. We can begin to see the emotion showing up before our thinking mind even knows it's there. And sometimes just dropping the story and paying attention to the body, the emotion can begin to fade. And having said that, I don't want to create expectations. This really isn't about manipulating reality. It isn't about feeling better or making an emotion go away. It's really about addressing what's here with kindness, whether it makes us feel better or not. Because the more we practice allowing what's here, seeing what's here, attending to ourselves because it's here, over time, these difficult emotions have less hold over us. And finally, the N, which is nurturing. Okay, just this idea of that I've done a couple times of just being kind to ourselves. That's not in most of our MOs. It's not something that comes natural to us because again, our culture tells us over and over again that whoever we are, we're not enough. We have to be something else. So it's about recognizing the wounded or frightened or hurting place inside you, seeing what it most needs, and just offering that care to yourself. And then after the rain is kind of sitting with it. And again, I'll go into that in the practice. But yeah, so you're welcome to attend to this safety warning. I'm going to be asking you to bringing up a mildly difficult situation, and sometimes that can turn into a large situation or something like that. So please, if this practice doesn't work for you, know you can let go of it. Like I said, there'll be a handout so you can come back and try it again. But the idea here is to just take care of yourself as we do this. And again, if it's possible, it's 12:12. This will probably be about, no, excuse me, be about 15, 18 minutes. So if you're able to get into a comfortable position, like lying down even, working with difficult emotions, it's often helpful to just be in a completely comfortable position. But otherwise, certainly sitting or whatever works for you is fine. Um, so and there'll be a lot of talking with this. This is done in the style of Tara Brach, and I'll give you some links. And so she's often doing a lot of inquiry, a lot of exploration. So if you find that my talking is getting in the way, again, feel free to turn me down or just mentally tune me out. But why don't we go ahead and start the practice, as we often do, getting into whatever comfortable position you can work with, remembering you can always shift, you can move, you can do this standing, yeah, camera off or on, you can gently rock, again, just whatever's supportive for you. And we'll start, as I usually do, with just a few big deep breaths, just allowing yourself to feel the breath. Let the breath, the feelings of the breath, fill your whole consciousness. The big inhalation, long, slow release. The rising, the nourishment with the inhalation, maybe hold it a bit, and really let that exhalation soften through the body, the downward motion. And letting the breath return to normal. Eyes open or closed, whatever supports you best. And maybe just attending to the body. Okay. Again, as we've done before, this idea of just scanning through the body, looking for tension that wants to be released. Okay. Tension that can naturally release as you choose to release it. Classic places, particularly in the middle of a busy day, or the jaw, the muscles around the eyes. Just moving those muscles, softening, easing the neck and the shoulders. See if you can just, those, again, almost has to go lower in stages, just lowering the shoulders and then lowering again, maybe letting the breath, the gentle rise and fall, softening with that exhalation, bringing ease into the neck and shoulders. Then down into the chest, the abdomen, and softening, releasing, easing. Feel free to take another deep breath if you wish. Feel free to shift, move, rock. And the big muscles in the legs and the arms. Again, just letting gravity take over here, giving yourself the gift of this moment, just letting the body soften. And now from this kind of wakeful presence, scan your life, okay, and see if there's a situation, a place of difficulty, okay, something that's bringing up difficult emotions. Again, nothing major, certainly nothing that brings up trauma or really strong emotions. We can't learn when we're in overwhelm. So something where there is a charged reaction, but not overwhelming. Maybe something going on in a relationship, something at work, just some irritating encounter with a salesperson or tech support, just something that is triggering, where there's some sort of maybe some fear or hurt or frustration, sadness. Basically a situation that brings up these reactive emotions that you'd like to find more balance in the midst of. And as you settle in on a situation, really bring it to mind. Okay. Who was there? The other person, the words that were said, what happened, what might happen. Really plays this through, almost like watching a movie. Maybe just go to the frame where you feel most emotionally reactive and allow yourself to freeze that frame, maybe holding it, because we may need to come back here to recharge the emotion. Just sense what is triggering you. So the R of rain is to recognize what's going on. What emotion is here? Anger or hurt or just frozen or fear, whatever it is you're most aware of. And if there's multiple things, just name them all. And if it's hard to name, if a lot of stuff's going on, just say confusion. That's perfectly fine. But as you name it, try to name it in a kind, validating voice. Just as you would for a friend. Oh, anger is here, or sadness, or guilt. Just see what it's like to simply name the emotion in this kind and supportive way, letting the words soak into you. And as part of recognizing it, okay, there's the A, the allowing. So as you're experiencing this emotion, see if you can just let it be there, okay? Just allowing the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings to be here without trying to fix or avoid it. Giving up any sense of struggling with this. Again, you don't have to like it or the situation. You may need to act here, but right now, we're just pausing to make space for what's here because it is the reality of the moment. And sometimes a phrase can help, as you hold this emotion, as you hold the situation, to allow it, just simply saying, yes, yes, this is here, or it's okay, or I consent. I'm going to allow myself to experience this. It belongs. Just see what that feels like in the body. Again, sensing into the body. If the body's tightening up, maybe allowing yourself the kindness of softening, checking into those shoulders, into the back, the abdomen. Just breathing around the emotion, breathing into the space. Just see if you can just allow it. Because by not fighting, you stop feeding the emotion. And maybe you can see it a little more clearly. Maybe even seeing layers of emotions here. A vulnerability beneath anger, a fear around anxiety, just hating a feeling of deep sadness. So just naming the emotions as you find them, allowing them to be here. Again, just with kindness, with ease. And then the I of rain is to investigate. Okay, we're going to spend some time here. And remember, this doesn't mean thinking about the situation. You may need to rethink the situation to charge up the emotion. And that's interesting right there. But no, our mind desperately wants to fix, to plan, to counterattack. So let the thinking be. It's going to be there. Just acknowledge that and stay with the body. So with this feeling, you might begin by asking what most wants attention. What's the most difficult part of this? Where are you feeling it? It's feeling into the place of whatever's going on, the feeling of failure or shame or judgment or anger or fear. Just really pay attention, to places like your throat, your heart, your belly, recognizing that you can always let go of this practice if you choose to. But what are you finding? Is there a clenching or a rawness? Is there an ache or a squeezing? Just really getting curious about this thing we call an emotion and how it's showing up. Sometimes you can feel it as a shape within you, a hardness in the chest or a band across the shoulders through the abdomen. So as you identify this, whatever form it's taking, look closely at it. Does it fluctuate? Does it shift? Does it kind of quiver on the surface? Even things like, does it have a color? And as the emotion is here, is there tensing in the body around it? We're just like a reporter. What's going on here? And if there is tensing, see if you can soften that. Again, this engages curiosity. There's a real reward flavor to looking into things, to learning about things. And it gives you some space around the emotion rather than being lost in it. It also lets you see what happens to the emotion when you let go of the story and really explore how it affects the body. So spend some time here, again, recharging the emotion if you need to, and getting really curious. Is it in the chest? If so, does it spread out to the arms and legs? Or is it in some other location? Or are you noticing it in one area, but when you pay attention to the rest of the body, do you find traces of it in other areas? And as we do this, it can sometimes help to ask yourself, what am I believing about myself or others when this is happening? Okay. Is there a belief here that's perpetuating the emotion, or a belief that is causing the emotion to arise? Like, am I believing that someone feels I'm not special? Am I believing that I'm not understood, that I'm invisible or a failure, or that I'll always be this way, that I can't handle it? Just seeing if there's some sort of a belief going on in addition to what you're experiencing in the body. Again, breathing, holding the body with ease. And as you explore these places and possible beliefs, if these areas could communicate, what would it want you to know? Maybe these sensations, these feelings are offering you words or a strong feeling or an image. What is this emotion trying to tell you? And so the eye of investigation begins to turn towards the N of nurturing. When you ask that vulnerable place, how do you want me to be with you? Okay. As you would ask a dear friend, what does this place most need right now? Does it want to trust something? Does it want to feel something in particular? Does it want to be loved or appreciated or heard? So whatever you're finding, begin to sense the possibility of responding to this place inside you from the most loving and wise part of you. And sometimes it helps to get in touch with that wiser place. You might want to take a few full breaths, maybe find yourself adjusting your posture a little bit, a little more upright, a little more strength, a little more power. Just something that allows you to inhabit your highest self, your most awakened, wise, and caring heart. But also staying in contact with that vulnerability, just listening, feeling, what does this place most need? Can you offer this vulnerability what is needed? Perhaps starting by putting your hand over your heart or where you're feeling it in your body. Again, these hands that so readily offer care to others. See if you can feel that flow of energy coming from you to you, putting your hand on your body, letting your body know you're here, offering this vulnerability what is needed. And are there words that this place needs to hear? Can you offer that? Perhaps thinking what you might say to a dear friend if it's hard to determine what you need to hear. A friend that was going through this, for something like as simple as I'm sorry, I love you, or I care about this suffering, or just telling yourself, I'm not leaving, you belong. You are part of my life. It's not your fault. Or maybe just reassure yourself that you've been here before. You know what to do. You know what boundaries to set. Just feeling that strength and that caring, nurturing. Turning towards this. The poet Rumi says, don't turn away. Keep your gaze on the bandaged place. That is where the light enters you. So recognize here, you're exploring what you need for your healing. You are the holder and the held. And then we follow this rain practice with what's called after the rain. Just if it's possible, if it feels right, maybe resting in this heart space, this awareness of what is here. Just letting this idea that, you can just dissolve into this ability to just care for yourself, to support yourself, to sense what this emotion wants, what it's telling you, and hold that. And if as you were exploring this, if you found a belief that perpetuates the suffering, you can even ask yourself, what would I be like if I didn't have this belief? What freedoms would be there if you didn't hold this belief? And is this an avenue to explore further? Because really recognize that a practice like this is more the truth of who you are than any other story you could ever tell about yourself. Just trusting in and resting in this presence that is your true home. I'm just going to finish this practice with a brief poem, again by Rumi. It's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. This guest may be clearing you out for some new delight, the dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So I'll end that practice, and you can begin to wiggle your hands and feet, maybe offering yourself a stretch, a glass of water, whatever it takes. So, that's rain. Again, something that you can kind of keep in your back pocket, either for in the moment experiences. I think you can see that something can be done quickly, or certainly for end of the day, rather than ruminating about something, just pausing and saying, wait, what's really going on here for me? Can I attend to that? And once you attend to that, you may have a lot more creativity and wisdom and compassion to address the situation with greater skill. Any thoughts or observations or anything, you guys?
I needed that today. And I laid down my yoga mat, and that was helpful to step away from my computer. And so thank you for inviting us to lie down or something, because that I might keep doing that. That was really helpful.
I don't know if Julie can do that in the president's office with all those pictures and plaques. But maybe they should get a recliner in there for you, Julie. So,
I need to figure out how to block the window because people can see in. I have taken a nap underneath my desk, though. I will admit to that.
turn off the recording.
No, during my lunch hour.
Okay,
It's
all right, all right.
legitimate. Yep. Sometimes you just need that.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, you guys. Any questions or anything? Because I think we're at the 12:30 mark. So, well, I will turn it over to April and Becca if there's any announcements. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
That's
April, I
what
don't
I
know
was
who's
going to
going.
say.
We'll meet again the week before spring break and after spring break, so we can, meet before while we're stressed in, midterms, and then after once we're relaxed and
Okay.
and able to breathe. So
Thanks,
thank you,
Anna.
Jonathan,
All right.
again. We'll see everyone on March 16.
All right.
If you can make
Okay.
it.
And I will get an email out with this handout. Thank you again, everybody, for what you're doing to help educate folks and get people to think on their own. So, all right, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Bye.
Bye.